Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, April 10th, 2015, and this is a special Friday afternoon edition of Admissions Live. Admissions Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network, offering live webcasts each week for professionals in higher education. Recorded shows and podcasts are always free and accessible to you in our archives at higheredlive.com, as well as in podcast form on iTunes. Our live broadcast allows viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in the industry. Share your insights and ask questions on Twitter using the Higher Ed Live hashtag. We'll be checking that throughout the show. Today's show would not be possible without the support of all of my colleagues here at Stony Brook University, as well as from our producer, M. Stoner. M. Stoner is a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. And if your website needs help, you probably know it, but redesign projects are difficult. 3 basic preliminary steps can make the difference between a successful process and an administrative mess. And you can learn more and download M. Stoner's newest white paper on redesigning your website, and we will tweet that link out from the Higher Ed Live page. Higher Ed Live Twitter account, rather. Admissions Live is also sponsored by Chegg Enrollment Services. Chegg connects the nearly 80% of college-bound students researching schools across the web with the colleges and universities who are trying to reach them. Using an online platform that includes 10 of the most popular college search sites online, Chegg can help you save over 90% on the cost of traditional methods for generating your inquiry pool. So email outreach@chegg.com to schedule a free consultation. So as many of you know, May 1st is coming very, very quickly. And May 1st is the National Deadline Day, or the National College Signing Day for deposits for the fall 2015 freshman class. Many of us out there have sent out our admissions notifications, and now we wait for high school seniors to determine where they're going to enroll this fall. There are also, in addition, thousands of 10th and 11th graders who are getting geared up for the classes of 2020 and 21, as terrifying as that is, that we're already thinking that far in the future. But it's with that that Admissions Live is very excited today to talk with Erik Walden. Erik is the Executive Director of the First Lady's Reach Higher Initiative. The Reach Higher Initiative is an effort by the First Lady to inspire every student in America to take charge of their future by completing their education past high school, whether that be a professional training program, community college, four-year college, university, whatever. School does not end at 12th grade. And in today's economy, a high school diploma is just not enough. Students have to reach higher, and that is why First Lady Michelle Obama is working to rally the country around the president's North Star goal, which is that by 2020, America will once again have the highest highest proportion of college graduates in the world. So with that, I'd like to bring Erik Walden, our guest for this week's show. Welcome, Erik.
Hey, thank you so much, Chris. I'm so pleased to be here today.
Cool. So start by introducing yourself, talk about what you do, and what Reach Higher is all about.
Great. So again, thrilled to be here today. As you said, my name is Erik Walden. I'm the Executive Director of First Lady Michelle Obama's Reach Higher Initiative. Before I actually got to the First Lady's office, I spent 5.5 years working for Secretary Duncan over at the Department of Education. I was the Deputy Chief of Staff there. Now, my role now as the Executive Director is helping the First Lady work, as you mentioned, to try to inspire young people across the country to pursue their education past high school. What I like to tell people is you can think of Reach Higher as the First Lady as school counselor-in-chief for the entire country.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's good.
Yeah, she's out there trying to tell people all the things you would imagine that your school counselor would tell you about filling out the FAFSA, visiting a college, doing that research, figuring out financial aid and college affordability, talking to your school counselor, understanding what you need to do to take those classes, the APs, the whatever, so that everyone across the country is ready to get through high school and prepared to actually start day one in college ready for success.
So, so how did this initiative came about this time last year? We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Reach Higher. How did this come about?
Well, you know, as I mentioned, I was working at the Department of Education, and for the First Lady, she was loving what she was doing on Let's Move, her anti-childhood obesity initiative, and she knew she wanted to keep doing that. She loves what she was doing on the Joining Forces initiative, helping military-connected families, and she knew she wanted to keep doing that. But at the beginning of 2013, upon the start of a new term, she said, you know what, I think I want to do a new initiative, and I think I want to be around education. So Secretary Duncan, myself, we went over to the White House to begin talking to the First Lady about what an education initiative could look like. And it became really clear that for her, this was a personal thing, because she herself, folks, your viewers may know, she's a first-generation college student. Neither of her parents went to college. They valued college, and they told her to work hard in school, but neither of them had been to school. And she tells the story really personally about, not even thinking to apply to a place like Princeton, but for the fact that her brother Craig was recruited to play basketball there. And the First Lady tells it, so I don't feel bad saying it, but she tells a story that, when Craig got into Princeton, she said, oh, well, if Craig can get into Princeton, I can get into Princeton because I'm smarter than Craig. So, she tells that story, and I think for her, seeing what college did for her family, what it did for her and Craig, and seeing what it meant for her being the first in her family to go, seeing what that meant, the difference in education for her in her life, she wants to pass that on to everyone across the country to make sure they understand that they can do it. If a girl like the First Lady Michelle Obama can come from the South Side of Chicago and be successful at Princeton and Harvard, everyone can, and we just need to believe in young people, give them the tools that they need, and put them on that path. So for her, she wants to tell her story, but also point people along that path and make sure that they're getting the resources that they need to, so that they can live her dream too.
Great. So what sorts of things is Reach Higher doing?
Yeah. So actually, right now we've got a great opportunity to participate. We are coming up, as you mentioned, on our one-year anniversary on May 1st when we launch Reach Higher. And as you said, that is College Signing Day, College Decision Day is what some people refer to. And you may know last year, First Lady Michelle Obama launched this in San Antonio, Texas, where they have a citywide celebration where the entire city comes out to celebrate all the graduating high school seniors who put on all their college gear, and they take a pledge and they commit that they're going to complete college. And it's a citywide rally. It's a culmination of events where the city is talking to young people, from kindergarten all the way up through post-secondary, about how the whole community can rally around college completion. So we thought it was a great thing to talk about, as that's how we as a country need to create this college-going culture. So the First Lady, last year she put on her Princeton shirt. She showed up to San Antonio. We actually had the whole White House all have sort of a dress-down day, if you will, and everyone get to wear their gear, take pictures, post on social media. We're doing that again this year, and not only are we doing that again, we're actually asking the country to do even more. So right now, if you go on reachhigher.gov, you can go to the Get Involved section, and we have a signing day toolkit. If your school wants to host a signing day, you want to host one, you want to see what types of pictures you can take, we have a kit showing you what you can do. So we're hoping that schools and cities across the country will sign up. We actually already have dozens of cities who are willing to step up and do this. We're really excited to celebrate it again. So get out your college gear, show your pride. If you're a counselor or a teacher, if you're a student, where do you want to go? Show that pride, wear that shirt, post to Reach Higher, and we're really excited for people to be able to participate and, as a country, celebrate National Signing Day.
All right, so I've just tweeted out that link to the toolkit there. So if you go to the @HigherEdLive, you've got access to that. So you mentioned the college completion piece. I think that's really important. And as much as on the enrollment, on the admission side of things, it's important that students are making the right decisions as to what kinds of colleges they're going to, and that it's not, like you mentioned, Princeton and Harvard and those kinds of things. And it's not just about the Ivies, and I think that gets caught up a lot in the sort of the college going hoopla.
Yeah.
And, their notifications, which just came out 2 weeks ago, and Harvard's at 5% and all this kind of stuff. And it goes so far beyond just the Ivy League schools, and that's such an important thing to remember.
Thank you for pointing that out, Chris, and I think it's really critical because it's lovely that the First Lady gets to talk about her experiences, but we know that, and she says this, she talks about it very, very clearly, that it's really the right fit out there for people, and it's not going to be, it's not necessarily going to be a traditional 4-year, you don't know what it's going to be, but some college is necessary, some post-secondary, and so we're out there talking about the importance of, the president's been out there pushing free community college, and certainly we know it's critical that, high school is just not enough, so the president's raised the bar and said at least 2 years of post-high school has got to be that, and that's the minimum. That's what we think people need to be successful. So that might, for someone, be a 4-year. For someone else, it's going to be a community college. For someone else, it's going to be an industry-recognized certificate or credential. But some education is critical for the knowledge-based economy. So you're absolutely right. We're trying to have a broad conversation. And maybe your viewers might know there's been really interesting research happening, these sort of Gallup surveys talking about what leads to a successful life, who ends up being happier, what's the key to sort of that college success. And Gallup and Purdue did this study. And it's not something that only Harvard can do or only a community college can do. It's experiences like, did you have a professor who was invested in you? Did you take a class where you were able to apply what you were learning and use it in the real world? Did you have an internship that forced you to do, what you were learning and apply it in a real life situation? Those sort of basic situations that any college, any community college, any high school really can look to replicate. And that's how we're going to get students passionate. That's how we're going to help them find what they want to do. And that's really when we talk about fit and finding the right fit for you. There's no one school that has the magic ingredient. The key is to get some school and to find what's right for you to help you be successful. And we know too that, as you said, it's completion is the goal. It's not just getting there. So we want to make sure that students and parents have the tools to understand, how are they making that decision. And you might know, what the president's been announcing around trying to create a college rating system using the scorecard that's currently out there. And if you go to reachhigher.gov, we've got a few of those resources to help parents figure out what's the real price, what's the better fit, how does this school do in terms of getting my kids to complete. So there's so much information out there. We want to try to make it easier because right now it's really complicated. So there's a lot of things we can do to make it easier for kids.
Cool. So I want to talk about there are sort of the four pieces of the Reach Higher puzzle. If you look at that toolkit as to how it comes around, and so you've got exposing students to college and career opportunities, the financial aid piece, academic and summer planning, which I think is fascinating, and then of course the school counselor piece, as you mentioned sort of at the outset. So how do those pieces, I guess maybe we'll take them one at a time. So the exposing students to college and careers, what sorts of things are we doing there?
Yeah, so terrific. So in terms of exposing students to college and career, as you know, it's critical, especially for first-gen and low-income students, to get that exposure, right? If they didn't grow up in a family, in a school, or in a community where college is the expectation, we have to make sure that we're actually bringing kids to campus, seeing what's possible. The First Lady actually was inspired last year. She went with a Gear Up program with kids from the south side of Chicago to a trip to Howard University where they got to stay with kids on campus, what we call near-peer mentoring, right? They were staying with kids who looked and sounded like them, had similar experiences, and were able to talk to those kids and say, well, here's my experience. Are you, how does this translate? Am I going to be able to make it in college? And those students were able to tell them, like, look, if I can make it, you can make it. And it's much more authentic than you or me telling kids, no, you got to do it. And so this year, the First Lady, the way she's selecting her college commencement is we had a video contest to ask colleges to show us what they are doing to bring more kids onto campus. You'll be hearing hopefully more soon about who won, but we are overwhelmed by the response from colleges and schools to show what they're doing to try to bring more first-gen kids onto campus, showing us what they can do to be successful. That's just one of the types of things we can do to make sure increase near-peer mentoring, get more kids onto campuses and see what's possible.
Nice. So we're not going to have like the big announcement during the show?
That would have been, that would be very exciting. Someone will get very mad at me.
What if you just dropped a hint? Like, I'll be okay. I won't. No, Erik Walden gets fired by the White House after...
former White House advisor, Erik Walden.
Let me thank our guest, former advisor. All right, so the financial aid piece. So financial aid is obviously very important. The Ivy Tower documentary and the cost of higher ed spiraling out of control. And the financial aid piece, so very important, because that, I think, is a major stumbling block, obviously for low-income students, probably for a lot of first-generation folks as well, as to, yeah, I'd like to go to college, but,
right.
and that affordability piece.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, and I think the administration is trying to do a ton to address that, including simplifying the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. In the first term, you saw the move to direct lending, so we took the middlemen banks out of it. Saved $40 billion to try to increase Pell Grants, make it a little better. But there's always more we can do. But I think what the First Lady's tried to do here, which I think is critical, is make sure kids understand that there is money out there for them. So she last year we partnered with Get Schooled and MTV on sort of an awareness campaign around the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. This year we partnered with Univision to talk to Latino parents specifically about the importance of FAFSA and filling it out. And also, I think I talked about our video contest for how we're selecting our college commencement. This year we also hosted a video contest for high schools to select where the First Lady is going to go for her high school commencement. Or same thing, we wanted schools to show us what are you doing to create college-going culture, to show what you're doing to get FAFSA completions up in your school. And the problem with the FAFSA is no matter how much simpler you make it, every year, every student, every year the counselors and the parents are going through it for the first time, and it's hard and it's complicated, and we want to be able to inspire them. And same thing, we've been so inspired by what the videos we've seen across the country, the creativity of young people to get their schools excited. I will tell a little bit about that. You'll hear more later, but we've seen flash mob dances in cafeterias. schools. We've seen, skits, based on TV shows or movies of what kids are doing to inspire their classmates, let them know that there's $150 billion available in federal student aid. And, for some students, they think, oh, there's no money for me. There's just college can't be there for me. And I think it's critical that we let them know that that's possible.
Very good point. You mentioned the, reaching out, the Spanish language thing you mentioned. The school I used to work at, we did an outreach to a local high school that had a large Spanish-speaking population. And one of the simplest things we did was bring two of our Spanish-speaking admissions counselor and a Spanish-speaking financial aid counselor to do a Spanish financial aid session workshop with parents who were so thankful that we would do something like that. It's so simple. For us, we were doing the same exact thing we were doing.
Right.
It cost us nothing to go out and be part of this community, and turned out to be a great help for folks. And it wasn't even, and it's easy to get caught into the promotion of our own campus when we're out talking to parents and all that. But what we do is so much broader than that, and it's not always necessarily about, oh, I want you to come to Stony Brook. It is, hey, we want you to go to college, and we want you to know that there are resources available for you at whatever level that may be.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's amazing that you did that, because what we have to do as adults, as leaders, in the community, is try to make schools a more welcoming place, right? Especially for first-gen families, right? Oftentimes their high school experience was not a good place, so for school is scary for them. So how do we bring in those parents? How do we bring in more people into the conversation? And that can be, on a language piece. That can be how we're bringing them into the schools in general. How we're making them feel part of the conversation for something that could be sort of scary and threatening to them.
In a lot of cases, and I'm going to jump to the school counselor piece, I mean, we have lots of conversations with students where we'll say, go talk to your high school counselor about X, Y, Z, course selection or whatever. And they'll say, well, I don't know who my counselor is, or my counselor doesn't have time for me.
Right.
And that's not always easy. And we love school counselors. This is not that to come across like that. But they're horribly overworked in a lot of cases, where their student load is so large that it's impossible for them to know 250 students, 400 students, whatever.
Right.
And so having these kinds of resources available for our students is so very valuable.
Yeah. And so that's a great pivot to the counseling piece. I think most of what the First Lady has been thinking about is like how to really talk to students directly, get those resources to them, have this conversation. But when we were thinking about who are some of the adult force multipliers, in addition to parents and teachers and principals, it became clear that counselors are these people, right? They have the roadmap, especially for first-gen families. And as you mentioned, they're just, the numbers are bad, right? Like, you've got, on average, one counselor for every 471 students. That's the national average. That's about twice the recommended rate. And in California, which is always my horrible example,
right, yeah,
one counselor for every 1,000 students. So you got a math problem, right? Like, no matter how dedicated that counselor is or how interested that student is, like, are they going to be able to get the time that they need?
Very good point.
Yeah, we've tried to lift them up. Actually, one of the, there's a few sort of wonky things we did, but also just on the simple things that we can do with the White House. For the first time ever, the First Lady brought the School Counselor of the Year ceremony to the White House in January. We want to lift up counselors, because if you talk to counselors, they feel like they're not at the table for the conversation and leadership positions at their high school around that college completion and college access space. So, they need better professional development. They need better tools. They want to make sure that they have what they need to be trained, but they feel like they're not getting that pre-service training they need. They didn't get the in-service training they need. They're having to go to professional development for the English teacher, and they're like, I don't teach English. I'm the counselor, and they're doing the bus duty instead of focusing on getting kids to school. So there's a lot we can do. We actually had some partnerships with folks at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, also at San Diego State University, and we've been holding convenings trying to get state teams willing to come together and change how states are handling school counseling in their districts. So we had 32 state teams show up in San Diego at our convening, and that was really exciting to see what they're doing to change the game. And we're going to continue to push. And you've seen the president talk about it, the First Lady talk about it, and we just need to do more to get them, the resources they need, the tools they need, and the professional development. But I think what you and I are doing today, and what you're doing every week or every couple weeks with this sort of chat, is an example of how we can actually bring people to the students, right? And I've seen some amazing young people figure out how they're going to create peer-to-peer counseling by getting kids in college to just do a FaceTime with the high school class and try to break down that that ratio to so realistically help our kids.
Cool. And the final pillar there is academic and summer planning, and I think that's again so very important. We get lots of phone calls again from students who are 10th, 11th grade saying, what do I need to take? What should I take? I've got a choice between taking an AP Bio and an AP Physics, or I've got a choice between taking, this course versus that course, or what math should I take? All those kinds of things. So again, it starts early. It's
Yeah.
Students are thinking about college earlier than certainly I did 12 years ago. So how are we impacting those kinds of discussions?
Yeah, what's so interesting. So first of all, we have resources. You go to places like studentaid.gov that we have sort of checklists for kids. And we have checklists as early as kindergarten, preschool for parents to think about. Hey, what am I thinking about? Because the path to college doesn't start in 9th grade. It starts much earlier than that. But what you talked about is totally real. And unfortunately, even for all the kids who do the right things, take the classes, show up to college, we find out that they're not ready. Anywhere between 25 and 40% of entering public college freshmen have to take remedial classes, right? They show up, they take that placement test, and they're told, nope, you're not ready for freshman English, you're not ready for freshman math, and they've got to use those scarce grants and loans just to get up to speed. So we've got to do a better job making sure that they're taking rigorous courses while they're in high school. So last year, the First Lady has partnered with the College Board and their AP All-In campaign, trying to get more students of color to take AP classes. For instance, you've only got, African Americans make up 14% of the population, but only 4% of AP test passers, I think, in AP Math. Is something pretty lousy, and we need to get. And if you use that as a proxy for college readiness, we need to do better. So we've been talking about dual enrollment, early college, high school, things that are going to get kids the confidence, right? You just actually heard an announcement in Washington, D.C. 2 days ago where Howard University is now partnering with D.C. public schools so that D.C. public school students can take Howard classes while they're still in high school. So get that credit, which can help bring the cost down, and make sure that they are ready and confident and see, oh yeah, I can do this. I just took a college class. And it's making them more excited about school, because when you read about why kids drop out, they feel like they're bored. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't cool. It's like we're giving the kids the long delay before they get to college when they're going to have more fun. We can make high school more vigorous. Let me say one more thing, which is you talked about summer melt, and we know that even for the kids who did all the right things, who show up, who say they want to go to college, in between that high school and college phase, they're not showing up. And now we know, and we have some research showing that there are really simple things we can do to increase the likelihood they're going to show up, right? And researchers like Ben Castleman at the University of Virginia, Lindsay Page at the University of Pittsburgh have shown that connecting a student just via text message to a counselor, so they know, hey, I can text message my counselor if I have a question. So I get that letter in the mail that says, hey, here's your $25 housing fee, or you got to sign up for classes at X date. If they know they have someone they can ask a question to who will be responsive to them, you're increasing the likelihood they're going to show up on day one. And that's just, that's a high-tech, high-touch, not very expensive solution where kids are now going to show up, they're going to keep going, and we need to make sure that we're doing those things, that we aren't just hanging the students out there to figure it out on their own. So we can do more, and we need to keep, finding those solutions and bringing them to scale and sharing them, right? Like let's set the answers free. Let's get this out to more people to show them how to help those kids be successful.
So what can admissions folks do to really affect that kind of change? Because like you mentioned, just the reaching out of a text message, an old supervisor of ours always was one of his big points was the incoming class, until they show up for the first day of classes, that's on us. Like that's on us in the admissions office to make sure we get them to that first day of classes. And obviously there's orientation involved and other things, but that's our class until that point. And yeah, whereas a lot of us are starting to think about the juniors and the sophomores already for future years, we do need to make sure that we're giving our full effort to these seniors and for whom, as you said, this is their first time. Yes, I've been doing this for 15 years and I've been answering these same questions for 15 years, but it's the first time these students are asking these questions, and a lot of times first time these parents are asking these questions. And we've got to be ready and willing to go the extra mile for every student that we interact with all the way through the process.
So I think that's 100% right, and I think what you're just describing is phenomenal because you live this every day. But we really do have to, as much as possible, break down the barriers between K-12 and higher ed. And I think for so long, traditionally, K-12 has thought, our job is to just get them, across the graduation line, across that stage, and then it's, then you guys handle it. And then higher ed says, oh gosh, I can't believe that he's not, he or she's not ready. Like, what did you leave us? And I think we're trying to create incentives for school districts and college presidents to talk more to one another. You may know, and we had a big convene, a College Opportunity Summit in December at the White House. And we actually got 630 institutional commitments for places to increase access around completion for first-generation and low-income students. And one of the big areas, one of the key focus areas, one was around counseling, one was around STEM, but one was around K-12 and higher ed, where we said, you know what, we got to make sure that the college president, and the community and the K-12 system are talking. So the superintendent and the college president are talking to one another. So they're creating strategies together around sharing the data, right? Like you think about all the things that high school, counselor or teachers know about that student and what he needs, and are we transferring that to the people who are going to need it at the college, who can then know when to intervene, how to intervene? Like, we're sort of just leaving them on their own. And how are we creating better data structures, better shared goals, so that we're not just talking past one another? But I think it's exciting to see what schools are doing to create those kind of partnerships. I think people like the Strive Network, people like Lumina are trying to incentivize and fund this at the local level to pay and help cities create these strategies. So you're going to have a city strategy for Cincinnati that says, hey, here's how we're going to make sure K-12 is talking to higher ed. Here's how we're going to make sure we're going to create the tools and the data networks for counselors on both sides of the house to talk to each other, professors on both sides of the house to talk to each other, so they aren't just figuring out, oh, I guess that's what college standards are. I guess this is what's wrong in the high school piece. So I think there's a lot of hope out there. We just have to get the word out and make sure people feel like they're not just doing it by themselves, right? We have to give people an opportunity to share what they're doing well, and spread that out as quickly as possible.
And from the college and university side, partnering with high schools and middle schools in your community is such a natural thing to do. I mean, it's an easy thing to do, and there's really no reason not to. I mean, we reach out, we do a big reach out with our local school district every year, where we actually take from K to 6, and we go out in the morning, and we do talk about college, and we bring the mascot, and we make it fun and all that, and then we bring them to campus for a basketball game. And so they get to see what that's like younger, so they can say that it's not just, oh, that's the college, I have no idea what goes on there.
Right.
They have an idea of what that end goal really is.
I think that's exactly right. It does have to be a community, a community engagement, community solution. And I think what you just talked about, right? We also, let's make this fun, right? I think so much, we take things so seriously because we got a committed group of educators who care about this. But this is really fun stuff, right? This is talking about inspiring young people to feel like they can realize their dreams, that someone believes in them, that they do have a path. And I think, we need to empower and make sure that it's not just the counselors' jobs. It's not just, it's everybody's job. How is a community creating that strategy? So, how are we empowering all the teachers to feel like their job is to make sure college completion is the goal? How are we empowering, the kindergarten teachers? How are we empowering everyone across the country to make sure, my goal is to make sure everyone's being able to follow their dream, and that's going to involve, some sort of college, some sort of mentoring, some sort of, helping someone else pay it forward. And I think that's the really cool part sometimes about the college experience too, is that students see what they were able to do, and they're able to reach back into their own communities and pay that forward. And I think that's the virtuous cycle that we need to keep on moving with.
And I think it's easy to get excited about this stuff. I mean, you look at the Humans in New York group that went to Harvard, whatever that was, 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, these kinds of things can happen. It's yeah, sometimes there's money involved, but it's easy to do.
Yeah,
it's easy to empower empower people to make these kinds of things happen.
So I'll be really honest with you. I think about it all the time, and we had actually the Humans in New York folks actually came to the White House. They got to meet the president in the Oval Office. Just again, an incredible story of teacher caring, making it happen. But I also think about what you and I are doing today, and think about what it means for the mom who figured out how to get her son and her niece and maybe her neighbor into college, or the senior who figures it out. And each of us become a college expert for like 1 to 3 years, right? Like whether you're going through it, you feel like you're figuring out
whether you realize it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got this cohort of people who figure it out every year, and I think about what Uber and Lyft and the sharing economy are doing around other industries, and what is that going to mean for college access, right? How do we set free all these other people who have understood how to navigate getting into college, how to be successful in college, and how do we let them help others, make it and make it much easier for someone to find out, all right, I need help on my college essay. Like, is there someone out there working on that app to say, yep, there's someone at a cafe, a mile away, and they'll help me work on my FAFSA form, or they'll help me think about my essay, or they'll help me, they went to the college I'm thinking of going to. They went to City College of New York. I wonder if they could talk to me about it. We've got people out there who I think have this knowledge, and we just need to set some of that free too.
So how are you reaching out to students specifically? So, obviously it's easy for us on the college and university side to say, okay, we're going to do XYZ program. How are you reaching out to students, and particularly first generation students and low income students who, I'll leave it open. And how are you reaching out to them?
Yeah, so I think we're doing a couple of things. So number one is, we're lucky to have the resources of the federal government where we, have our partners like Secretary Duncan at the Department of Education and all the outreach. He's been to 50 states across the country, visited schools in every state, and we work with our partners there who are thinking a lot about talking to students directly in school. So we have our relationships with 14,000 school districts, and we're able to reach out in that very direct way through our our grants and that piece. But really, the cool part about the First Lady's office and her unique reach with young people is we want to hit them where they are, and so we're trying to make sure that we're using things like new media in addition to traditional media, and using her sort of unique platform to hit kids where they were. I think maybe you already knew it, but I think it was interesting to see at the White House people realize that actually YouTube stars and YouTube celebrities are much more well known among young people because people are on their phones, they're on their new media devices. So for our back to school events that we did last year in Atlanta, when we went to Atlanta Public Schools, when we thought about who we were going to partner with, we talked to MTV and Get Schooled, but we also did a sit-down interview with Tyler Oakley, who has one of the top 10 watched guys on YouTube, to talk about what he did and his college experience and reaching out to young people at Reach Higher. So we're talking to YouTube stars, we're creating video contests, we're having first gen or people take over our Instagram account. We're talking to nonprofits around what they're doing, but we're doing all sorts of different things that so you're going to see the First Lady, on the cover of 17 and writing an essay about Reach Higher. But we're also going to throw her on Instagram and let her see, what's going on when she visits a school or what it means to, wear her college shirt. And I think we have to do all of those things to really hit kids where they are. And I think on the first gen side too, the other really interesting thing is, the federal government, we are really trying to invest in those students, whether it's through programs like Gear Up and Trio, and thinking of the investments we've made. So we actually have almost, a reach of around 1 million students out there who we try to reach through our grantees on a yearly basis. So we're also talking to those folks. You may have seen this past year, the State of the Union, if you watched, the First Lady had a young man sitting right next to her. His name is Anthony Mendez, and he's a first-gen college student. And the First Lady met him because she wanted to bring together a small group of first-gen kids and talk to them about their experience. And through that, she learned about his struggles, having been a homeless youth in New York, what he did, how he partnered and got a mentor with a group called I Mentor in New York, and through that was able to find someone who believed in him and get through school. And now he's going to finish his freshman year this year at a college in Connecticut. And it's exciting to see the First Lady be able to go from a private conversation with someone like Anthony to now him sitting in her booth at the State of the Union. And I watched him do interviews on TV, bilingual and otherwise, and just his message is the message we want to bring out to young people across the country, that he can do it. He was inspired by the First Lady, but his inspirational story started way before she got involved.
Very nice. So we are starting to run short on time, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to sort of wrap up and preach the Reach Higher message. So what can we do between now and May 1st to help the Reach Higher initiative?
Great. So again, thank you so much, Chris. This has been fabulous. I really encourage folks, go to reachhigher.gov, go down to that Get Involved section, download the College Signing Day Kit. If you're having an event, sign up and let us know, because we want to celebrate that across the country. You might even be able to hear from the First Lady yourself if you sign up. So it could be an opportunity for you. Talk to young people. Make sure you know that you're planning a dress down day. You're going to wear your college gear. You're going to post on May 1st. And you can do that on the lead up to there. You can do it afterwards. We really just want to get the word out. But College Signing Day on May 1st is going to be our big celebratory day. So you're going to see pictures from the First Lady, from celebrities, from administration officials. And we want you to be a part of this big celebration. So we're really hopeful that you and your own school can celebrate these seniors who are going to college. And this should be fun. It should be a rally. Think about the marching band. Think about how you want to celebrate them. But there's a lot of fun to be had, and we just want to help you be part of that movement. So please join us. Please go to reachhigher.gov. Please sign up. Don't forget to post on social media on May 1st to #ReachHigher in your gear. So we're thrilled. The last thing I'll just say in general, because it's more than just about May 1st, is this work that the First Lady is doing around Reach Higher, trying to talk to young people about finishing school. she said it herself, but she's going to do this for the next 20 months, but she's also going to be doing this for the rest of her life. So, we really want to hear from you. If you have ideas about how you can continue to get involved, please send us an email. Email us at reachhigher@who.eop.gov. We want to hear from you. You can also follow us on Twitter for @reachhigher and on Instagram at @reachhigher2020. But we want to have this be a two-way conversation. We know that people are out there in the field doing this great work. We want to hear about it, and we want to bring you in and make sure that this is a movement for the rest of our lives, hopefully. And we're not going to be successful in the next 20 months. We need the next 20 years and even more than that. So we're thankful for you for signing up, and we're looking forward to this journey together.
Cool. Well, thanks to Erik Walden for joining us, and my apologies to the First Lady. I know she wanted to be a guest today, but we just ran out of time. Maybe next month. That's fine.
We'll get her next time, Chris. We'll get her next time.
So Admissions Live will be back in 2 weeks with my co-host Nicole Lentini. She's going to be talking about innovative online yield events. Many of us have our admitted student weekends coming up, so we'll talk about what we can do online. And of course, thanks as always to M. Stoner and Chegg for sponsoring. Get reminders about this and other Higher Ed Live shows on the website, higheredlive.com. Subscribe to the Higher Ed Live podcast on iTunes. And I am Chris Dorso, and back next month with more from Admissions Live.